Hi, my name's Andy Tillison. I'm from a band called The Tangent, and you are watching Live Prog. You rock!
Hello there, Marcel Haster, the man from Live Prog. And I have for you my review of Live in the US by Karmakanic. Karmakanic is of course the other band by Flower King bass player Jonas Reingold. He founded the band in early 2000s because he wanted to play something different than the music he played with the Flower Kings. You know, these creative minds sometimes have more inspiration and they cannot always put that in the band they are in, so they, well, do sort of a side project, although I wouldn't call Karmakanic a real side project. This is definitely a solid band with a steady lineup. Because next to Jonas Reingold on bass and guitars, we also find Goran Edman on lead vocals, Lalle Larsen on keyboards, Christer Johnson on guitars and Zoltan Kors on drums. Zoltan Kors also from the Flower Kings and from many other bands and projects.
In my dreams I see the only one. In my dreams I hear it all. I hear angels.
They released their debut album Entering the Spectra in 2002. 2 years later I got my first taste of Karmakanic when I had a chance to review their second album Wheel of Life. Then it was quiet for a few years, but in 2008 they came back with Who's the Boss in the Factory. And the last album, the last studio album of Karmakanic already dates back to 2011 in A Perfect World. And now they are back with a double live album. Yes, a double live album, because we'll open it up. There we have it, a nice photo of the band, and here we have it, 2 CDs. And this is the back of the package. 2 CDs, 8 tracks, 100 minutes total running time. As a European band, you don't get the chance to play in the US, well, very often. So when you get the chance, and especially when you can go to such an amazing festival as Rosfest or Rites of Spring Fest, which is one of the bigger prog festivals in America, it is nice that you have a chance to, well, record the set you play there. And of course, you know, they took the recordings home, they mixed it all up and released it as a double live CD, the first live CD by Karmakanic. When I listened to the album, and I haven't been really following the band, I haven't been really a big fan of them, but I did enjoy their music. I have seen the band live a couple of years back in Holland when they played at the Rock Ittevoort Festival, and I really enjoyed what I heard there. Now, when I listen to this album in particular, because that's what I'm talking about, of course, Live in the US, I hear a band that is, well, a very solid band, bringing some really beautiful music, playing amazing songs. They are playing songs from the last 3 albums in their discography, so they're not playing anything from their debut album. It is a very nice set list, despite the fact that it are only 8 tracks. And well, when you say 8 tracks, you know that they have some longer tracks, and there are 3 tracks on this album that clock around 15 minutes and 1 track that even clocks well over 20 minutes. So, you know, prog length album, definitely Karmakanic. But then again, they are a prog band, so you wouldn't expect anything else from these guys, now would you? But at the same time I had a small reservation when listening to this album, because as the title says, Live in the US, when I was listening to the album I didn't really get that live feeling out there. You didn't really hear the crowd noises, the cheering, the clapping. Well, you hear some clapping at one point when they play Turn It Up, track number 3. There they kind of invite the audience to start clapping, but they say themselves, you know, this is one of the rare occasions that you can do that, because Karmakanic doesn't play that straight up forward rock music, although they have a few songs that are a little bit more in that area, but it is fairly 70s, 60s progressive rock that they play, and sometimes very complex with a lot of jazz influences in it. The second track on the first disc, Where Earth Meets the Sky. Wow, that song stands out for its incredibly beautiful vocals. Goran Edman is an amazing singer. I have heard him on other albums as well, and I really love the voice of that man. And on this album, he really shines. He is, in my opinion, he is one of the stars of this album. When you listen to him sing, he has such an amazing voice, and in that track particularly, he really stands out. But who also stands out on this album is Lalle Larsson. Now, there's another keyboard player in addition to him, because we also have Niels Eriksson on keyboards, but Lalle Larsson does some really amazing, very impressive solos and a lot of piano work on this one, especially on that second track, Where Earth Meets the Sky. There's one other track that also have a lot of piano in it, although that might be a little bit over the top, because that is track number 4, and incidentally these two tracks are from the Wheel of Life album. But Do You Tango, track number 4 on this album, is twice as long as on the original album, which means you have a really extended instrumental section in it. And again, you know, this really extended piano solo by Lalle Larsson, but also a very long and heavy drum solo not by Zoltan Kors, he does not play on this album, but we have Morgan Ergeren on drums, the drummer from Kaipa and from a lot of other bands, including Zappa. Now, Zappa, that might give you a bell a little bit. You know, the freaking is something that you find on, especially on that track Do You Tango. That I gotta be honest, that becomes a little bit too much to take in what they're doing there. There's a little bit too much jazz and freaking and soloing going on. Fortunately, you know, they bring in some more rest moments with the tracks that follow, tracks 5 and 6, the last two tracks of the first disc. 1969 is really an amazing song, but especially Eternally. That is, wow, that is such an amazing song. When you listen to that, again, you know, close your eyes, lay back and listen. Ah, wow, really beautiful track. You know, it's fantastic that they put it in here. Then, moving on to the second disc, we found only 2 tracks on the second disc, but the first track is Send a Message from the Heart, which clocks over 20 minutes. And what they do there in the intro is, and they did the same on the original album, so it is obviously a recording, but Jonas Reingold introduces his son Alex. Although he says he's hiding in the kick drum, because of course the kid is not really there and they have to come up with something. Sorry, I'm destroying the whole myth. I'm sorry about that, but Alex, 5 years old at the time when he recorded his part on Who's the Boss in the Factory album, sings the first bit on that song. Now, when you listen to that song again, you hear how fantastic Karmakanic is, what an amazing musicians these guys are. The last track of the album, they put in a little bit of a cover from Genesis, from the And Then There Were Three album, the track Undertow you find in there, and they reprise the very first song of their set list, When the World is Caving In, and again, that is a beautiful song. So, you know, this album has a lot of beautiful songs in it, and there's nothing wrong with that. When you listen to the album, you really enjoy it, although that soloing freaking might be a little too much. Also, I am slightly disappointed about the lack of live feel on this album, despite the fact that it's called Live in the US. But apart from that, it is a very good album, especially the fans of Karmakanic will definitely enjoy it, but also people who are not familiar with Karmakanic might find this album a good place to start, because you get songs from a couple of albums from the band, so you get a good impression of who Karmakanic are. I think this album will get Karmakanic some new fans, because first of all it shows what an amazing songwriter Jonas Reingold is, but also what a really good band Karmakanic is. Therefore I say a decent 7, maybe a light 8. The end! This was my take on Live in the US by Karmakanic, and of course it is my opinion, but I'm curious to your opinion. What do you think of this album? Have you heard it and do you like it or do you not like it? Well, let me know as a comment on my YouTube channel. If you like my reviews, well, subscribe to my channel and follow me on Facebook and Twitter so you will stay up to date on new videos that I will be uploading. And of course I hope to share a lot more music with you. So from Live Prog I say, I hope you will see me at a new review.